Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the GOP nominee that everybody seems to be talking about right now, Vivek Ramaswamy. Now, if you're not familiar with him, he is a millennial like myself who is running for president, and he's causing a lot of, waves within the liberal media because he is challenging, and unapologetically so, the liberal media and their bias when it comes to freedom of speech, censorship, woke culture, gender ideology, that whole cult. Like, he goes in on everything and everyone in such an intellectual and classy way that it's like art. It's like music to my ears when I watch him. So I wanted to react to some clips that I just found of him that he recently put up regarding some interviews that he did in the mainstream media, and let's look at it together, discuss it, analyze it, and go from there.
Whole premise of this discussion is predicated on the fact that Twitter is one of the main forums for open public discourse and debate today. It is one of the reasons I love this program is that people with diverse views can come together and exchange those views. We have lost those sacred spaces. Say what you will about Twitter. It is one of those few spaces on the internet today where people are still able to engage in dialogue outside of their echo chambers. Come back to your question, though.
Pelosi is very dangerous. If you look at the Capitol, Washington Post put out a story yesterday about how the Capitol Police watched this break-in, or would have if anybody was monitoring the cameras. The stuff that was said about him definitely leads to additional violence. And you can say this. I'm not saying this just about the Democrats. This is definitely a situation where Republicans have been put in this position. We're going to have Scalise on, who was shot. He's going to come to us about these things.
So this is, but Becky, the only thing I will tell you is this is not unique to this moment. We have been having this debate in this country since 1776, since 1789. This is the fundamental American debate. It is the bargain of free speech in our country. All right, free speech is not intended for the speech we love. It is intended for the speech that we do not love. Without it, it's not a free speech country.
You can have your opinions, but saying that things are facts are dangerous.
So here's my view on this. If you're going to take down false speech, the company bears the burden of proof to demonstrate that it was actually false. Because free speech is not a liberal arts luxury. So the pursuit of truth depends on it. The pursuit of truth depends on it.
In all situations, you can have an opinion, but there are certainly facts in certain cases. To be able to say whatever garbage you want until you are proven otherwise is not what you
So, Becky, you'll take a look at the debates around closing schools. There were people who were censored on YouTube, on other social media channels for making the arguments against school closures. Now we look back and say that those were probably policies that we regret. I believe we would have gotten to the right answers sooner if we had not censored those views.
And this right here, in less than 1 minute, is why I freaking love Vivek Ramaswamy, because he's just spitting facts. He is spitting straight facts at this liberal woman who's trying to argue that information is not interpreted or argued. Yeah, actually it can be. And he uses the perfect example, which is when the whole panini happened, and I can't say the name because I get demonetized, but you guys know what I'm talking about, and schools got closed. The whole idea was that this was for safety, and if you spoke out against it, you were the problem. And he's right. A lot of people were deplatformed, a lot of people were demonetized, a lot of people were censored on every single social media platform as being conspiracy theorists and putting out dangerous speech that was unsafe for society. And now fast forward to almost 3 years later, and now you have everyone saying on the left, maybe that was a bad idea. Maybe we shouldn't have closed every school immediately like we did, because so many kids are now left behind when it comes to their studies, and so much damage was done within those 2 years that they were locked in their homes, not allowed to go to school. And perhaps we over-exaggerated the situation. Perhaps we should have had more of a dialogue as opposed to rushing to the extreme and silencing anyone who had dissent. Now, according to her, back then, what was being said about school closures was fact. But as we know, as time has evolved, it was a mistake. And I love how he said, if you're going to call something not true, then you have the responsibility as the platform to prove why it is not true, as opposed to just taking things down. Because taking something down for an opinion versus fact are two different things. You may not like my opinion, but if it can be argued, it should be able to stay up. And even if what a person is saying is not factual, it still should be able to stay up so that other people can see that video and then debate it and argue why what that person said is not true. Why are we trying to hide things and cover people's eyes from different opinions? Why? Are we China all of a sudden? Like, what is with the censorship? I go through this garbage all the time on different platforms, specifically TikTok. TikTok is the worst when it comes to their gender ideology beliefs and what I call the cult. If you say anything against Dylan Mulvaney on TikTok, you immediately get strikes, you get your video taken down, and you can't even appeal it. And I got a perfect example for you. Now, I recently posted this video on TikTok first, and then I also posted it here on YouTube Shorts. And here's the video that I posted regarding Dylan Mulvaney and my response to something that he had said.
It's day 9,610 of being a human, and I'm gonna try to leave gender out of this since that's how we found ourselves here.
Really? Because you built your entire platform solely on your gender identity.
I've been offline for a few weeks, and a lot has been said about me, some of which is so far from my truth.
There's only one truth, but carry on.
I do have some thoughts to share with you. I'm struggling to understand is the need to dehumanize and to be cruel.
Can we identify what being cruel and dehumanizing is? Because in today's world, simply speaking truth can be considered cruel and dehumanizing. I'm just saying.
I want to share parts of myself on here that have nothing to do with my identity.
And that would be great. But the problem is that you created your entire platform solely based on your gender identity and your gender ideology. That's how you became famous. When you were a gay man on Broadway, nobody knew who you were. You were mediocre. The moment you wore a woman face, you suddenly became relevant and made millions. So it's kind of hard to switch up now and say, I just want to be me without talking about gender when that is your entire gig. Now, that video did really well on TikTok. It got over 100,000 views in just a couple of hours. And then, of course, I started getting flagged by his cult members who did not like what I had to say. And so TikTok had originally took down the video for going against community guidelines, which happens a lot. I appealed it, and within 5 minutes, it was reversed and the video was put back up. So I was like, great. My video was restored. Cool. All of a sudden, I go back on the platform like 4 hours later, and the video is taken down again. Again, for hateful behavior and hateful speech and things of that nature. The same video that was restored 4 hours earlier is getting reflagged for the same thing, and now I can't even appeal it. The video was taken down. I got a strike on my channel again, so it's done. What did I say in that video that was hateful? Was I cursing at him? Was I demeaning him? Was I calling for him to be harmed in any way, shape, or form? No. I was giving an opinion based on what I feel and what I think. That's it. And because I said something that was not liked by other people who like him, all of a sudden, my video was taken down and censored. Oh, why? Because I said that when he was just a gay boy, he was mediocre on Broadway? No one knew his name? How was that wrong? Was he getting brand deals when he was a man? Was he TikTok famous when he was a man? Was he in the mainstream when he was a man? Was he getting invited to the White House when he was a man? No. It was only when he started playing woman face that suddenly he became a household name. And that was my point. But I guess that fact was too real, and the video was taken down. And this is the problem with censorship today. It's not based on facts. It's based on if I don't like how what you said makes me feel, I reserve the right to censor you and take you down. This is why I love that Elon Musk has taken over Twitter, because he's creating a different vibe on Twitter now where people feel free to actually speak again. Libs of TikTok, which is a very popular conservative creator who likes to expose the crazy on TikTok, the woke people on TikTok, at one point was deplatformed on Twitter before Elon Musk because their videos were too extreme and their videos were too offensive and they were being censored. And now that Elon has taken over, their account was put back up, and Elon actually follows the account, which is pretty freaking cool. So it's like a slap in the face of censorship. It's like, you know what? You don't have to like what I have to say, but you cannot silence me. And I wish we had more of that on almost every single platform. But it's really difficult. It's really, really difficult nowadays to have an opinion that does not fit the liberal mob or the cult mentality. All right, let's look at one more clip.
Welcome back. As America debates how old is too old to be president, the youngest candidate that's announced in the 2024 field is currently introducing himself to voters. Vivek Ramaswamy is a 37-year-old multimillionaire who graduated from Harvard College and Yale Law School. He made his fortune at a hedge fund and in biotech, and he ran an asset management company which calls itself anti-woke. A first-time candidate for political office, he says he has plans to start an anti-woke cultural movement.
We're in the middle of a national identity crisis. That leaves a vacuum in its wake. And when you have a vacuum that runs that deep, that is when poison fills the void. Pick your favorite one. Wokeism, transgenderism, climatism, globalism, COVIDism.
And Vivek Ramaswamy joins me now. Mr. Ramaswamy, welcome back. Actually, welcome to Sunday Meet the Press.
Thank you. Good to see you again, Chuck.
Let me start with this overall look. You've got this anti-wokeism. You've written books about this. This is your political identity as you've introduced yourself to folks. I get it in a primary. Mm-hmm. Why are you convinced this message could actually work if you got the nomination in a general election?
I think I'm speaking as a member of my generation here, Chuck, but I think it's true of all Americans. We're all hungry for a cause right now in America. We're hungry for purpose and meaning. At a point when the things that used to fill our hunger for purpose, faith, patriotism, family, hard work, these things have disappeared. So I see an opportunity to revive our missing national identity. I think that's something that Americans hunger for across the political spectrum. Answering what it means to be an American today. You ask people my age that question, you get a blank stare in response. I think that is the vacuum at the heart of our national soul. I'm running for president to revive the ideals that actually set the nation into motion. I think it's going to unite the country.
You know, it's interesting. Your rhetoric can sound uniting, and your answer just now. But then you say the following things. The trans movement has become a cult. We need to abandon climate religion in America. I definitely find the idea of systemic racism revolting. I say this, how do you square those statements with unification? These are divisive times. This is a polarizing time. We're pretty evenly divided on these cultural issues. How do you unite the country when you're essentially denigrating the views of half of the country?
I don't think I'm denigrating the views of half the country. I mean, let's take the touchiest of those subjects right now on the trans issue. I think that when a kid says that I'm born into the wrong body, that my gender doesn't match my biological sex, more often than not, that is a case of a mental health disorder. That doesn't mean you disrespect that person. It means they're crying out for help. I met with 2 young women who regret the decisions they made, going through double mastectomies, one a hysterectomy, chemical intervention, now trying to teach kids across the country that when you're struggling inside, going through adolescence, yes, that involves some struggle. We live in a cultural moment today where adults are affirming that confusion rather than actually treating them compassionately. That's cruelty.
I'm going to pause for a second because Vivek said something that is really, really important, which is that in his opinion, not even his opinion, but just based on what we know for the past decades upon decades, gender dysphoria was considered a mental illness. It was. And it wasn't until 2012 that the APA decided to get political and they changed it and wanted to redefine what gender dysphoria was. However, the DSM, which classifies what is a mental illness, still has gender dysphoria as a mental illness. Take a look at this TikTok creator who I follow who breaks this down for somebody who tries to argue that it is not a mental illness or a mental disorder.
You said that even though gender dysphoria is listed in the DSM, it is a basic fact that it's not a mental illness, or as I called it, a mental disorder. Do you understand what DSM stands for? The DSM is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. The only things listed in this book are mental disorders. Gender dysphoria is listed in that book. So stay with me here. This is really basic logic. If you have a book where the only thing listed in it are mental disorders and gender dysphoria is listed in that book, that would make gender dysphoria a mental disorder. I made the simple and factual statement that gender dysphoria is still a recognized mental disorder. Now, you could have accepted that basic fact, and we could have had a factual and nuanced conversation about it. But instead, you went to the APA instead of the DSM. Now, I don't know whether you went there because you simply don't know what you're talking about, or you're intentionally trying to be deceptive. But the APA is not now, nor has ever been, the source for mental disorders. That would be the DSM. Currently, the DSM-5. And in the DSM-5, gender dysphoria is still listed as a mental disorder. Or as you said, a mental illness. This isn't up for debate. As you said, scientific facts are scientific facts. Lying will never help you win the argument. Do a little more research and then come back and try again.
And there you have it. But of course, someone like Chuck Todd, a liberal on MSNBC, is probably going to argue that it doesn't make people feel good to hear that. Because nowadays, facts is not based on truth, it's based on feelings. Let's keep watching.
Ever talk to parents that have a kid who's going through this?
I have, actually. Yeah, and I think
it's a my point
is a difficult place to be. I acknowledge that. But what we need to do on both sides here is act with compassion, not really what makes us feel good about ourselves. And I think that's my main issue across our response to transgenderism and the climate. It's solving the actual underlying issues rather than what allows you to signal your virtue.
What makes it compassionate, though, to pass a law that denies a parent making their own health care decision for their kid? That's the part of this. That doesn't sound very conservative and small government to me.
Well, look, what did I say? What did I say? He's arguing feelings, folks. Feelings, not facts. Notice how when Vivek talked about dysphoria being a mental illness or a mental disorder, Chuck Todd didn't really argue against that. Instead, his argument was, but what about the parents? But what about how that makes them feel? Again, feelings. And in the words of the great Ben Shapiro, facts do not care about your feelings. Let's keep watching.
There isn't a state in this union that allows you to smoke an addictive cigarette before the age of 18, that allows you to get a tattoo before the age of 18. That's a body-altering change that a kid may later regret in life. So I think it is perfectly reasonable to say that if you're after 18 years old, you're free to decide whatever you want to do. That's what it means to live in a free country. But below the age of 18, I think it's perfectly legitimate to say that we won't allow genital mutilation or chemical castration through puberty blockers
You're
for the
calling
purpose
it
of
that,
gender transition.
But how do you know it's that? Again, how do you know, are you confident that you know that gender is as binary as you're describing it? Are you confident that it isn't a spectrum?
I am.
You know this as a scientist?
Well, there's two X chromosomes if you're a woman, an X and a Y. That means you're a man.
There's a lot of scientific research out there. There's a lot of scientific research out there that says gender is a spectrum.
Chuck, I respectfully disagree. Gender dysphoria for most of our history, all the way through the DSM-5, has been characterized as a mental health disorder, and I don't think it's compassionate to affirm that. I think that's cruelty. When a kid is crying out for help, what they're asking for is, you got to ask the question of what else is going wrong at home? What else is going wrong at school? Let's be compassionate and get to the heart of that, rather than playing this game as though we're actually changing our medical understanding for the last 100 years.
To this.
I'm sorry I keep cutting in, but he is spitting straight facts, and I'm so here for it. And I love the fact that he said, look, because Chuck Todd is making the argument, well, you can't tell a parent what they can and cannot do with their child's body. How dare you make that assumption? If they want to get their child transitioned or put on medication that's going to affect their body, that's between the parent and the child. But I love that Vivek is like, wait a minute, don't we have laws against children getting tattoos, children drinking, children doing a host of things that is going to physically affect their bodies? There are laws that say that as a parent, you cannot allow your child to do A, B, and C because you're putting your child in danger if you do that. And you will get in trouble if you do that. That is governing over that child's body, over the parent, because we understand what common sense is, which is why we do not allow parents to have full reign over their children if their children are going to be put in harm's way. See, again, what Chuck Todd is arguing are feelings. And then he has a nerve to ask, are you sure there's really a binary? And I love that Vivek was like, XXXY. Next question.
If a parent is dealing with a child that has these, that may have these issues, trust me, the last thing they want to do is consider something like this. But if that is what they think could help their child pursue happiness, or they're not to kill themselves, why take away that option? Again, why shouldn't it be up to the parents?
Really, Todd, there are parents out there that are not capitalizing on their children transitioning. It's the last thing they want to do. Are you sure about that? Because I've seen plenty of TikToks and plenty of people on social media who are transitioning their 2-year-olds, and the parents decide to make a TikTok account for that child, and they blow up. It happens all the time. So don't sit here and tell me that there aren't parents that do not capitalize on their children being trans. It's a thing. You don't believe me? Watch this clip.
Because of my experience in life, I now am a non-binary person. I feel like, okay, I have an opportunity here now to try and do what I wish someone had done for me.
Once I was watching TikTok and I saw a mum and a little boy, and he looked like a boy, but she was explaining how he wanted to be a girl.
We started making TikTok videos and we started sharing more because she was so unhappy and she had no role models. So I was like, right, we're gonna create that representation. We're gonna show the world that just because you're at the time a boy who chooses to express yourself as a girl, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not a bad thing.
I'm not like other boys. I'm a girl. This is all my dresses, and I wear this for my party.
I would say he is transgender.
Instead of saying he transgendered last year,
I would say he transitioned last year.
Instead of saying he changed genders,
he transitioned or he affirmed his gender.
So part of why parents now suddenly feel that way, let's ask ourselves that, Chuck, is we've created a culture that teaches parents that they're being bigoted or that they're bad people if they don't actually take those steps. So part of what I think is, listen, gender dysphoria, for the rare few people who have suffered it, is a condition of suffering. My question is, why on earth are we going out of our way to create even more of it? And there's no doubt that the cultural movement in this country, even education, is creating more gender dysphoria. If it's a condition of suffering, let's not create more of it. That's what we're doing.
He's speaking straight facts. If gender dysphoria is a really horrible condition to have for a person, it's torturous for them, right? Why are we incentivizing this disorder to the masses? Why do we have a Dylan Mulvaney who's being celebrated with red carpets for having a disorder? Why are we we celebrating and giving medals to people like Leah Thomas for stealing medals from actual women who compete in sports for the sake of inclusivity? Why are we acting as though this disorder is not a disorder? See, what we're doing in society is we are incentivizing people to have this disorder by celebrating it and saying, yay, do you want to have it too? Because you too can be a boy. Like, that's what's happening in school. That's what's happening on TV and these TV shows, even in the cartoons.
After all, you always say to lead with your heart, right? Well, my heart says that the way I feel most myself is to go by the name Fred. That's because I'm non-binary.
Like, it's starting at a younger and younger age. And there is something called social contagion, where kids are being incentivized to also have gender dysphoria, to feel a part of something. That's a very real thing, Chuck Todd. But I love when an anti-woke person enters a woke arena and completely schools the liberals. I live for it. All right, guys, that's it for today. I just wanted to show you guys some clips that I found to be really fascinating between Vivek and woke culture, and why I think he is causing some major rifts and waves within the liberal media circuit. And he's the only person that's actually speaking out on every single platform. He's on MSNBC, CNBC, CNN. He's on Fox News, Newsmax. Like, he goes wherever he needs to go to speak, doesn't hide. He speaks out. He challenges people. When he's challenged, he fights back. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that so much, because what it shows is this man has cojones, which is what we need in politics today. If you enjoy this content, please do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit my notification bell so you know when I post a new video. I'm trying to post daily, so I hope you guys are enjoying that. I'm also available on TikTok and on Instagram under CurlyBoyChuck, where I'm continuously being canceled just for you all the time, as you saw in this video. And I'm also available on Rumble under CurlyBoyChuck. I'm going to have a referral link in my description. If you guys do not have Rumble, go ahead and click on my link, add me, and let's fight woke culture together. Until next time, peace.